webcam microphone up close. Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was a
But I have the files. You know, I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, you know, days and the final slab of choice. I don't know when that was. Doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not Jesse Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the cartoon comes from, as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to just read two sources together. Whenever I try to prove out one of these, it's not. If you expect your government to tell you the truth, you're going to sadly disappoint another one of these things.
Dear Lord, what a dirty, dirty old man, huh?
Really? Can't be serious. Is this really how you want things to be? Come on. More hooker, eruptions. Eruptions, whatever.
Like Dave Powers kind of...
Really?
Allegedly broadcast live from Pima Region 2. Within the borders of the formerly united and currently occupied states of America, we bring you the Ochelli Effect.
I damn sure know I'm an original.
We have all these situations. I'd love to know why it takes 50 years, for
That's that.
For a 19-year-old girl to eventually get up to gumption to put these things out.
And that is certainly that. We are live on a Saturday night. It is February the 14th. February, actually, the 14th. Keeping score at home. That is the first trip over the tongue for the Ochelli Effect, as the obnoxious bumper tells you. I'm your host, Chuck Ochelli. Yes, St. Valentine's Day. I was planning for a little while an extensive look at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, as it were. You know, that interesting event in Chicago. I was going to do that. But recent events, recent stuff happening in the mainstream have caused me to have to look at something else. And what do I have for you tonight? But two guests, actually. Dr. Rebecca Carley will be joining me, and Dr. Leslie, not Doctor, wait a minute. Dr. Rebecca Carley and Leslie Carroll Botha, both of them talk show hosts, both of them very, very knowledgeable ladies, and both of them here to talk to us about vaccines tonight, which has been one of those issues as of late. I'm going to pop in a clip or two before I bring my guests on, and we'll see how that goes with the new setup. It may or may not work. Hopefully you guys will be able to hear what it is I'm doing. So, hold up. Wow. Okay, did not realize that was not playing on the air. Beautiful. Hold on a second. Let's see if we can get those clips going now. It's all a beautiful thing.
The measles outbreak is spreading. This past week, hundreds of people in New York may have been exposed when a college student infected with the disease rode an Amtrak train through the state. This morning, 102 reported cases in 14 different states, putting new focus on the debate surrounding vaccinations. Let's bring in Dr. Celine Gounder. She's an infectious disease and public health specialist.
So we obviously know where this is going to go, right? Regarding the mainstream, discussion, discourse, presentation, as it were, about vaccines. Those of us who think that it might be a bad idea to inject our children with these poisons, well, we might all be quite kooky and crazy and endangering the rest of you. Let's just mix in a quick thing. That was from CNN. Let's listen to a quick snippet from Headline News, which is, of course, a CNN creature as well. And of course they're all owned by the same, 5-6 corporations, as it were. You know how it is. Lovely, lovely, lovely stuff. Okay, here we go.
So many of you are worried about the spreading of measles, and the outbreak has reignited the debate about whether or not parents should vaccinate their kids. For the first time, the group Autism Speaks is commenting on this controversy and stressing parents should vaccinate their kids. The group's chief science officer released a statement last week that reads, "Over the last 2 decades, extensive research has asked whether there is any link between childhood vaccinations and autism. The results of this research are clear. Vaccines do not cause autism. We urge that all children be fully vaccinated." Well, let's bring in Dr. Sujatha Reddy.
Yeah, and then we're going to bring in more doctors. That was from Rob Ring, who is from the Autism Speaks website, right? We know where all this is going. Of course, this is all about controlling, exactly what it is we decide to put into our children's bodies, exactly what type of risks we think are acceptable with our own children, our own offspring, with ourselves. Of course, we're all crazy people that are not being vaccinated, and we're therefore endangering others. So now I'm going to grab up my other 2 speakers for the evening, hopefully. If all goes well, sorry about that dead space at the beginning. I didn't realize that it wasn't playing because I was trying to play those clips through a different means, and I am on a different setup, which I'm going to improve a little more over the next few weeks as time goes, and I'll let you know about a couple other things that are going on. But let's see if we can add... Let's see. Okay. Nope, we're not going to do that. I'm going to have to grab them one at a time because I had them set up to come in, and now they're not. Live radio. Gotta love it. Got to love it. Okay, let's first see if we can grab Leslie. Okay. Leslie Carol Botha, of course, is a radio talk show host, does the Holy Hormones, Honey, the Greatest Story Never Told show, which is on the Liberty Beacon Town Crier radio network at tlbtowncrier.com. That is the Liberty Beacon Radio Network. And, of course, brilliant lady, wonderful speaker, and somebody who always brings a bit of controversy to the table, and somebody who I just personally appreciate. Leslie Carol Botha is with me. How are you tonight?
I'm good, and thank you for that nice introduction.
Oh, no problem. I'm playing a little catch-up here because I had a little minor technical issue at the beginning. But I did get to give a quick sample of a couple of mainstream clips about how, people are not very intelligent to not vaccinate their children. Even a spokesperson from AutismSpeaks.com coming on or whatever, making these statements. And I want to also bring in Dr. Rebecca Carley, because we're going to do this 3 ways, which is kind of unusual for me on this show. But so I'm just sort of setting it up, giving the general background why I wanted to do this episode, because I was planning on doing a historical retrospective of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, believe it or not. But guess what? This is a whole hell of a lot more important to me, on a day-to-day basis. And you know why, don't you, Leslie?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm delighted to be on the air with Dr. Carley. I think the world of her.
Right, and as soon as I can get her, we will have her.
Oh, I thought she was on there already. I'm sorry.
Nope, it's okay. I am just not having good luck with connecting things, but she should be there momentarily. Of course, man, oh man, let's see where we got it. What's Ailing the World is the name of her show, actually. And also, I really wanted to call it, The White Coats Are Coming, when we were talking about airing her show over on Liberty Beacon, because it really felt like, she was sounding an alarm about medical tyranny altogether. Of course, you do that in your own way as well. And the two most logical people to bring on when it comes to chemical manipulation and these kind of things were yourself and Dr. Carley.
And I just saw her come online, but let me just clarify that medical tyranny. I take a different approach. And that is about educating, especially women, about their health. That is why we have not been able to, that's why we're in this mess, in this medical tyranny mess, because we have given away, we've been told that our health, the doctors will take care of us, and that's, what we've kind of believed, and therefore we have lost our medical freedoms through uneducation, lack of education. So that has been my role for the past 35 years.
Well, right, and of course, a big part of that equation, when it comes to vaccination, that's a huge issue, isn't it? There was a time where the general consensus among most medical professionals was to avoid giving pregnant women certain things that it seems as though conventional wisdom, as it were, has changed, right?
Yeah.
You have the infliction of the flu vaccines on pregnant women. And, let's not even, and those who are very, very concerned with the health and the welfare of the fetus never seem to want to touch this issue, do they?
No, it doesn't appear that way. It really doesn't. This came out at Autism One last year, and one of the side comments was a push to vaccinate kids in utero, because once parents leave the hospitals, there's no guarantee that they're going to return for their well baby check. And a well baby check is all about vaccines, as a matter of fact. So, it's a hardline issue, but that's about where it stands, folks.
Well, yeah, this is the truth of it. And, wow.
Yeah, that's a big wow, huh? I mean, we were talking earlier today, a colleague of mine, just like how crazy is it getting out there? And what is it looking like for parents? And it's not pretty by any stretch of the means.
No, certainly not. And again, it does amaze me that, now you know what I'm talking about when I say the health of the fetus. I mean, everybody
yes,
concerning themselves on the left and right wing side of the paradigm, about a woman's right and about a woman's non-right and about the rights of the fetus and the rights of the stem cells and the rights of this and that. But hardly a word is uttered regarding, this idea that it's a good thing to inject all of these wonderful poisons into a woman's body, which are not good for her to begin with, but at least she stands a fighting chance while she's sharing her, her blood and everything else with the fetus, and there's no real damage being done there, right?
Yeah, so they say. Well, and the issue gets even more complicated because we are now exposed to so many toxins in our environment, from medications, from foods, from cleaning solvents to Roundup, Monsanto's Roundup, the herbicide that is used freely, to biosludge, which contains mercury and heavy metals that you can buy at Home Depot thinking it's good for your lawn. There's the same biosludge that's laid down on children's playgrounds, school grounds, parks, medians, open spaces, and the toxins in our own personal environment, toxins in makeup, I mean, the waters have become so muddied. I've been doing many shows and research on shows, and a study just came my way just on last Wednesday, as a matter of fact, and I hurriedly put it up. A woman, a graduate student at the University of Birmingham, Georgia, it made the link between a hypothetical link between autism and synthetic hormones, birth control. And that just threw me for a loop. And who can say any longer what is poisoning us and what is not poisoning us? Are you there, Chuck? Yeah.
Right, yeah. No, absolutely, and this is true, and we have all these things going on, and the manipulation of the hormones, especially via the estrogen mimickers that are out there, in the packaging of the food, in the food itself, in the water. I mean, it's a whole lot of biomanipulation, and the vaccines, of course, are, one of the most astounding things to me, because it just. What's funny? I think we do actually have Dr. Carley on now.
She just sent me a message asking, what's up? What's up? I don't know if she's online yet or not.
Ah, okay.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Hello,
you are.
Dr. Carley.
Yeah, I don't know why the group call didn't go through, but I just called in, so I'm here.
Oh, excellent. Okay, great. You know what? It's one of those nights. I started out with a little bit of dead air. I was trying to play some clips. I was trying to get you guys on the phone. It was just a whole thing so far. Let's hope it improves. But of course, our main discussion is about vaccines, and your show, as I was saying earlier, let's see the exact phrase now. Go ahead, Dr. Carley.
Well, I want to point people to a very important article that's on greenmedinfo.com. Greenmedinfo.com. The title is Measles Transmitted by the Vaccinated Government Researchers Confirm. And basically, it quotes various agencies that are admitting that the live measles virus, when injected into people, gives them measles. And while they're blaming all the unvaccinated for the situation at Disney, of course, as usual, we're lied to about everything. It's the vaccinated that are spreading the measles.
Well, and that is a good point, because the thing to me, okay, not a medical professional, don't have a great degree of medical knowledge when it comes to things like this whatsoever, okay? But here's the thing, logically speaking, right? Growing up at the time I did, we were given an MMR vaccine, which was the measles, mumps, and rubella. Okay, it's a little different than what it is now, right? But we were given that vaccine. Those vaccines were pretty much standard, and yet the disease has, A, not been stamped out, and B, if the vaccine was so effective in preventing the illness, then it should be the unvaccinated who would be endangered, not the vaccinated, in my mind.
Right.
So,
well, what I always encourage people to do is to ask themselves the following question. If these viruses are so dangerous, how does injecting them directly into your bloodstream protect you? The whole concept of vaccination is a fraud on its face. And of course, there's so many other toxins in there. As a matter of fact, on my show this past week, What's Ailing the World on the Liberty Beacon, TomCryer.com, I interviewed Betty Martini, who is an expert in aspartame. And one of the things that she taught me is they have aspartame in vaccines. Now, what are they doing putting aspartame in vaccines? And of course, I know the answer because it's sensitizing people to all of these toxic poisons. They've also put peanut oil in vaccines. And of course, that's one reason we have so many children with life-threatening allergies to peanuts. This is beyond evil.
Well, we've also seen a rise in allergies or sensitivities to dairy products like eggs, right? And this is also linked to the same sort of problem that the peanuts are too, right?
Yes, they're using eggs to make vaccines as well. There's so many toxins in vaccines. It's unbelievable. And of course, now they're trying to threaten people that are against vaccines. There was even an article, I think it was in USA Today, where this columnist, Alex Berizow, um, is promoting parents who do not vaccinate their children should go to jail. I mean, what's up with that? That is insane. But that's how rabid they're getting. Big pharma is falling. People are waking up as to this vaccine fraud, and they're very threatened. So now they're trying to turn on the parents.
Well, exactly. I mean, you have anything to add to that, Leslie?
Well, yes, of course. Eileen Danneman sent an article out today, and I can't verify it because the link is not working to it. But the gist of her article was the FAA is now considering people must be vaccinated if they're going to fly the friendly skies. We're going to see more restrictions on if you want to get medical care, you have to be vaccinated. If you want your kids going to preschool, they're going to have to be vaccinated. If you are going to want to go to college, you're going to have to be vaccinated. That's their last bastion, and it's hardly a democracy.
Oh, right. They're trying to deny access, and even now, in a great many states, they have these exemptions, which are mainly under religious, precepts. But the thing is that most states, you don't have to necessarily name what your religion is and all that kind of stuff. You can sort of just compose a letter, from my understanding. At least that's the way it works in North Carolina. You can compose a letter which states that you have an objection based on a religious belief. But they're actually now pushing the idea that this needs to be gotten rid of because it's endangering everyone else. And I was particularly disgusted immediately because, this did start sort of with the whole measles thing coming out of Disney. But I played a clip before I got either one of you on, and I wonder if you guys would sit there and just go through a couple of seconds of this with me and see if this angered you guys as much as it did me when I heard it. It's from a mainstream source, Headline News, if you don't mind. Let's see now.
So many of you are worried about the spreading of measles, and the outbreak has reignited the debate about whether or not parents should vaccinate their kids. For the first time, the group Autism Speaks is commenting on this controversy and stressing parents should vaccinate their kids. The group's chief science officer released a statement last week that reads, "Over the last 2 decades, extensive research has asked whether there is any link between childhood vaccinations and autism. The results of this research are clear. Vaccines do not cause autism. We urge that all children be fully vaccinated." Well, let's bring in Dr. Sujatha Reddy. Hi, good morning.
Now, of course, they're going to bring in a doctor, okay, who is going to back the schedule, as it were, of all these wonderful vaccines. And I mean, I've told the story several times on the air about, my child being born in a hospital. And, within hours of his birth, they wanted to immediately stick him with the hepatitis B vaccine, which I did not allow, and all of that. And I stated directly to the pediatrician even, provided that my son will not be having any unprotected sex, utilizing any dirty needles, or getting tattoos anytime soon, I'm wondering why it is he would require this vaccine. The pediatrician did agree with me, but then conceded that it was part of the schedule, and therefore that's why he was trying to get it done. But I mean, this is the beginning of really pushing this narrative that those of us who choose not to do this are not only, completely ill-informed, but we are in fact dangerous to all of the other good people who are, getting all of their shots on the schedule, as it were. So I wonder what, I know what your reactions are going to be, but I figured I'd give each of you an opportunity to sort of react to the beginning of that little broadcast clip.
Well, first of all, the idiot who's saying that autism has been proven not to be from vaccines, who did the research, ma'am? Obviously, Big Pharma. How could they ever admit what they have done? And I work with a researcher who is also associated with this network. She writes with the Liberty Beacon. She writes articles on vaccinations. Christina England out of the UK. And she found 30-year-old documents labeled as secret talking about autism actually being subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, which is a demyelinating disease of the brain. Myelin is to the nerves what a plastic coating is to an electrical cord. It insulates conduction of the nerve impulses. I figured this out 2 decades ago from reading my medical book, where they actually talk about subacute sclerosing panencephalitis being caused by the measles vaccine. And so that is a flat out lie. What I've realized in my 2 decades of doing this work is that all diseases in internal medicine, in people and in pets, are from vaccines. And each toxic ingredient in the vaccine does a certain degree of harm. Of course, the viruses are, infectious. The DTP vaccine also caused an outbreak of whooping cough a couple of years ago. And they can figure this out by evaluating the viral infections to see if it's the wild type of the problem. And of course, that's a very expensive test, which they never do because they don't have the motivation to prove that the vaccine is causing the problem. As far as exemptions go, I encourage everybody to check out the website anticorruptionsociety.com. Anita Whitney, who runs that site, has been on my show a few times. And she basically talks about the exemption not being the way to go. Another site she has, Parents Against Mandatory Vaccines, they have a document that you can fill out because basically all of these agencies, all levels of government, you name it, they're all for-profit corporations traded on Dun and Bradstreet. And so they don't have any jurisdiction over living blood, human beings. And so that's what you do, is claim that you're a living human being. And because if you go for the exemption, you're falling right into their trap because all they have to do is deny the exemption. And then what are you going to do? Of course, what I tell people is stay out of the hospitals in the first place. They're killing people in massive numbers in the hospitals. And you don't need a pediatrician. You can weigh your own child. You can measure your own child. You can use natural things, feed them good food, clean water. Of course, breathing clean air is a problem with the chemtrails and all. But you can use common sense. You can learn about natural solutions. That's what I do, is teach people how to reverse problems with homeopathy and natural supplements. So you don't need a white coat because the white coat has to follow a standard of practice. If they don't follow the standard of practice, which includes pushing vaccines, they will lose their license. And that's, the sword of Damocles that they hold over these doctors who will never tell you the truth. Everything they do is toxic. And so why would you go to these people in the first place? I mean, if you get hit by a bus, yes, you need to go and get stitched up and get your bones set or whatever, and then get out of there as fast as possible. That's what I would do if I were the listeners.
Well, right. Barring catastrophic injury or a serious infection, I have kept my son away from the doctors thus far. The only thing I'm having an issue with is finding a natural solution for this horrendous teething pain he's having, to be honest with you. Outside of that, and he doesn't go for the whole, frozen things and cold metal things and typical sort of teethers, which I'm also sort of skeptical of because of the plastics and all that. But, so I'm sort of having a little bit of a struggle there, but altogether he's been extremely healthy. And I noticed that he didn't have to go through that terrible sick period after the inoculations like my older two, So, but you think the exemption is not the way to go because after a while they'll just deny the exemption like it seems like they're setting up to do when they're having these discussions now in public, right?
Right. Well, they're setting people up to get exemptions, and then they'll just refuse the exemptions. And then what are you going to do? In my opinion, the principle of informed consent is critical. And the American Medical Association even talks about the principle of informed consent, that's basically, sacred, and that doctors are supposed to follow that. Well, they're not allowed to follow that when it comes to vaccines. Vaccines are the sacred cow of Big Pharma because that's how they cause all disease in people and in pets. They corrupt the immune system. My website, drcarley.com, I have a paper entitled Inoculations of True Weapons of Mass Destruction. I describe how the vaccines corrupt the immune system. And especially now that they're using aborted fetuses to grow vaccine viruses, because you develop an autoimmune response to the dead baby cells in your body. And depending on where that, cell is from, it can cause kidney failure, it can cause insulin-dependent diabetes, every neurological disease you can imagine. The list is endless. And on my Reversing Vaccine-Induced Diseases.com site, on the pet page, there's an outstanding article entitled Science of Vaccine Damage. It's out of the UK. It has 19 non-pharma funded veterinarians who came to the same conclusion that I did. The vaccines cause all disease and internal medicine in pets. And of course, the same is true in people. And this is how Big Pharma makes their money. They create the disease and then they manage disease with drugs with multiple side effects that cure nothing. I watch television when I'm working on my computer, and it never ceases to amaze me. All of the ads by law firms that are suing various drug manufacturers. My favorite is this Xarelto drug, which is an anti-clotting drug, which is killing people, causing, bleeding, all kinds of side effects. And they're advertising the same drug while this law firm is getting people to file a lawsuit against the manufacturer. Where is the FDA? Are they removing these toxic drugs? No, they're not, because they're a for-profit corporation traded on Dun & Bradstreet, and they're in league with Big Pharma. So that's why I always tell people, if I was you, before you stick any pill in your mouth, I would do a search on the internet, type in the name of your drug - side effects. If you read the side effects of your drug, you will be amazed. For example, antihypertensives cause memory loss. Almost every one of these drugs has a psychiatric or neurological side effect. So that's what people have to do, is realizing what they're getting into, because your white coat's not going to tell you.
Well, and even the drugs that are supposed to help you with the supposedly organic problems regarding your psychology. I mean, everything that's supposed to be an antidepressant seems to me that suicidal ideation or suicidal tendencies is part of the package when it comes to the and I hold up air quotes when I say side effects, because these are effects, they're not side effects. This is part of the package that comes along with it. And yeah, it's interesting that heart attacks seem to be caused by this stuff that's being given to people who have heart conditions and so on and so forth. And it does amaze me that even when they were talking about what was it, resputerol, I think it was called, that you're growing breasts on boys and all kinds of other things. Kind of interesting that has to go on when you're trying to control hyperactivity and all that. Again, Leslie, I don't know if you want to jump in on this, but I have a feeling you would.
Yeah, so it is a huge concern. I think I've mentioned this before on your show, Chucks, and it certainly is appropriate to bring it up again. Robert Whitaker wrote a book called The Anatomy of an Epidemic, The Rise of Mental Illness in America, and he made the outstanding point in his well-researched book on the history of psychotropic medications that the first people who took psychotropic drugs back in the 50s and 60s, and at that time, 1 in 3 people were on happy pills, and that's what they were called, forever changed the neural pathways of their lineage. So certainly, since the advent of these psychotropic medications, we have been forever changed. And add to that all of the toxins in our environment, the increased vaccination schedule, the lack of vitamin D because we're indoors 99.9% of the time and not outdoors. Getting vitamin D, the lack of nutrients in our now processed microwaved foods. I keep telling people we're no longer aging, we're disintegrating. And I think
totally
that's
agree. I totally agree.
I knew you would. I knew you would. But it is such a severe situation, and it's why so many people are mentally ill and suffering.
Well, what I've said for years is that there is no such thing as mental illness. Mental illness is either intoxication, especially with heavy metals. The term Mad Hatter came about. Yeah. I believe it was in England. There were these men making felt tip hats out of mercury. They became mad. So, of course, mercury is a big part of this. The psychiatric drugs themselves cause chemical lobotomy. You also have nutritional deprivation, especially people that are in the hospital. They're eating garbage. They're eating green jello, red jello. They're not getting any organic food whatsoever. So you have to have nutrients in order for your body to survive. So you have the toxins, you have the nutritional deprivation. And I do also think that spiritual aspects are also involved in many cases, especially with people that have been trauma-based mind controlled and things of that nature. But it's certainly not due to a deficit in psychiatric drugs. And this whole field of psychiatry is a total fraud. You know, they've never proven any kind of defect in a psychiatrically ill, quote unquote, as they call it, individual that drugs address. This is just another way for Big Pharma to make money.
And I was thinking about that recently. I was listening to a replay of one of Leslie's shows where she very briefly got off onto the topic of the sort of set up to fail male, as it were. Because I know you're very well focused on women's health issues, Leslie, but you really quickly laid out a litany of things that are done quite often to little boys that cause them to be irrevocably sort of mutilated from a health standpoint. And I found it funny because I was listening to it myself and thinking, just about everything she just named on that list is what I endured when I was younger myself. And I'm not unique in this way. When you were talking about the
circumcision.
Circumcision, the combination of the traumatic, the encouragement almost of traumatic brain injury through certain sports practices. I mean, I was a bit of an out of control youngster at one point, and was actually encouraged to box in order to channel my problems, as it were. So actually joined up, went to a gym, and did all that stuff and boxed, if you can imagine that one. This was a good idea for somebody who was having difficulty coping with things and channeling his violent urges as a child, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention the and then of course you mentioned the the dietary problems that boys had, and the drugging that started during my generation, really, because prior to my generation, psychotropic drugs were not encouraged among younger members of the population. But the younger they get us, the more ingrained the change in the brain chemistry is.
And well, not only that, but the psychiatrists are being used by the court system. Yes. I can't tell you how many people that contact me are told that their children need psychiatric quote-unquote treatment. And if they refuse, they're charged with medical neglect. And, this is a favorite trick of the courts, is to use psychiatrists to label people mentally ill or whatever the case may be, and force on them psychiatric treatment. As a matter of fact, I myself, they went after my medical license in 2003, claiming I have a delusion of conspiracy because I had a public access TV show and I was speaking the truth on it. And they found a psychiatrist to label me as having a delusion. And I was ordered to undergo psychiatric treatment to keep my license. And I told them, you can have my license. I'm a teacher now, and I teach people what I would do if I was they. And actually, this turned out to be a very fortunate thing, because now doctors are being threatened that if they don't promote vaccines, they will lose their license. Doctors have absolutely no control whatsoever. They have given it all up to Big Pharma and all of these for-profit corporations that control everything. And it's going to be funny how it all works out, because what I've predicted for years is that nurse practitioners and physician assistants are going to take the place of medical doctors, because they get paid a lot less than medical doctors. And medical doctors, except for a few like orthopedic surgeons, there's a few cases where they need a medical doctor. But other than that, the medical doctors are going to be pushed right out. So after, all these years of schooling, I spent 17 years in college, medical school, and residency after high school. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of school loans. They're going to all lose it. And that's what they deserve, because they're not standing up for their patients. They're not telling them the truth. They're not giving them informed consent. All they're doing is harming them. This is evil. It's pure evil. And I'm so disgusted with my profession. My goal is to cause the death of medicine. And I'm doing everything I can to move that along.
Well, see, then you would know very well about what I'm going to ask you here, which is, what seemed to emerge during the time when I was facing, prosecutions, and their solution was to give me psychiatric treatment and to drug me and all this other stuff, for different things that went on as a teenager. What happened that I found very interesting is right around that time, there seemed to emerge a subset of medical professionals. I don't even know if I should call them doctors, that called themselves psychopharmacologists. You're familiar with this terminology, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And really, there it was, cutting out the middleman entirely, right? I mean, let's just figure out which drugs we can try to feed you and see what happens. It seems like is these people's jobs, But when you've laid all this groundwork with the vaccines, okay, all this stuff. I mean, not just the food allergies, but I mean, there's all sorts of intestinal problems that come from these vaccines. The autism issue comes up. Different sensitivities, problems with your blood sugar, problems with, it seems like the whole system in one's body can be attacked by the vaccines to begin with, pretty much set up to fail by all the garbage that'll be fed into the system later.
All diseases.
Oh, you said it well. Yeah, you said that very, very well.
Right. All diseases in internal medicine. Read that article, Science of Vaccine Damage, on reversingvaccine-induced-diseases.com. 19 scientific references from non-pharma funded veterinarians. Now, I figured this out 2 decades ago. When I was sent that article, I was like, hello, this validates everything I've been saying. And that's how bad vaccines are. It only depends on what part of the body is attacked by the antibodies. As I said, renal failure, insulin-dependent diabetes, juvenile arthritis. The list is endless. And not only have I proven that with my work, thousands of research articles have been written. Not many in this country, but in other countries. I even found an article from Italy where they talk about baldness being caused by an autoimmune attack on the hair follicles after hepatitis B vaccines. Okay, but I have also proven it with my protocol, which reverses all these diseases, because one of the main things I do is teach people how to detox their vaccines, how to get their immune system working again, what natural things can repair the damage, etc., etc. So there's no question in my mind that my profession has become one of disease creation. And they've totally sold out. And these doctors will do anything to keep their license. They will lie, cheat, and steal. They will misinform people and not tell them the truth about, the drugs and vaccines they're getting. And this is evil. The doctors take an oath, first do no harm. Excuse me, all they're doing is harm. And thankfully there's many people coming forward as whistleblowers. An excellent book I suggest to everybody is written by David Lewis, Science for Sale. He's also associated with the Liberty Beacon. And he worked for the EPA and the CDC, and he spells it out. It's all fraud. All their research is fraud. How can you believe anything they say? Answer is, you can't. And this is a matter of life and death, people. This is not a joke. Because if you go to one of these people and they give you something with side effects that are very dangerous, you could end up dead or totally maimed. So I take this very seriously. And,
Doctor, I have a question for you, Dr. Carley.
Go ahead.
To go back to your protocol. Can your protocol be used for prevention? Before you came on the air, I was bringing up the point about an article that I saw about airlines considering that you must be vaccinated to fly. We know kids can't go to the bills are in front. I've got a list of bills in front of me if you want to go through them that, are about vaccines and mandates. What are there things that people can do to prevent these types of injuries? As I mentioned before, and as you know, our immune systems are getting weaker. Our neural pathways have been jeopardized. So the brain's communication system is broken down. And it just amazes me that people winterize their cars, they winterize their homes, and yet we go into surgery eating pizza along the way. We don't prepare our own bodies for the toxic onslaught that is about to happen.
Well, as I always explain to people, yes, you can detox anything. There's homeopathic remedies to detox pesticides, even radiation from Fukushima, vaccines, you name it. However, my goal is to get people to just say no. If you can't fly without getting a vaccine, then don't fly. These are the kind of choices people are going to have to make. So, yes, I have solutions, but I would rather see people rise up, take their power back, and say, we're not going to take this anymore because they are killing us. This is not a joke. This is genocide. It's depopulation. It's talked about on the Georgia Guidestones and Agenda 21. People can check those out for themselves. They want to decrease the population by 90%. The psychopaths that control the world are destroying everything that matters. Our food, our air, our water, our bodies, as Leslie said. It's just, mind-boggling. And they're getting away with this. We have different shows on television. I watch Investigation Discovery a lot to see, well, what are they going to talk about today? And, they'll go after people for killing somebody. When was the last time you saw a doctor charged with murder by medicine? The only example I can think of is Conrad Murray, who murdered Michael Jackson. He got a lousy 2 years in jail. Obviously, that was intentional. Michael Jackson was singing about some stuff that they didn't want him singing about, so they had to take him out. And the only reason he got charged is because he was very famous. Other than that, the doctors get away with murder every day. Hospices are where they kill the elderly. I can't tell you how many calls I've gotten from families, especially a few cases where the family was actually told, if you want to say goodbye to grandma, you better be here Tuesday by 5. What are they telling you? They're going to kill her at 6, okay? They are murdering the elderly in hospices because, of course, our corrupt government has stolen all the money in the Medicare Trust Fund. So rather than print out more Federal Reserve notes, they're just murdering them with morphine, blood transfusions, cocktails of drugs, whatever. This is what the doctors are doing. They have become murderers. First, harm. I don't know why more people aren't outraged by this. But, as more and more people see these things happening right before their eyes, when I first started doing this work 2 decades ago, and I was talking about these things at various conferences I was doing, people would look at me like a deer caught in the headlights. Now everybody raises their hand. They all got a story. They're seeing it for themselves. And that's what it's going to take for us to have, a tipping point, the critical mass we need in order to stop these psychopaths.
Well, and they do demonize anybody that seems to have some knowledge and wants to come out and tell the truth. I mean, you were talking about your own experience, of course, but, I don't know what you think of a guy like Andrew Wakefield, but, the way that he was kind of handled and the way a lot of these doctors are being handled, we're also seeing stories of that now where they want to press charges on doctors who are, who are actually attempting to tell the truth on occasion. I mean, there's not many of them, it seems, but every now and then they catch somebody who's being completely irresponsible, who's not willing to go along with the program, as it were. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
Actually, do you have your chat on tonight? I would really be interested in knowing what your listeners are saying to this conversation. Because, for people who are new to this conversation, it's pretty ugly. And I agree with Dr. Carley wholeheartedly that people have to wake up. But it would be great I was just wondering if you had any feedback.
Well, I would like to comment on Andrew Wakefield. I met him at a conference in Canada about a decade ago. And I tried to tell him that autism is subacute sclerosing panencephalitis. And he didn't want to hear it. All he talks about is the gut. Measles virus in the gut is not what causes autism. It's measles virus in the brain that causes this autoimmune attack on the myelin. He's gotten a little bit more vocal now and started his own network, and he's speaking out to a larger degree because I think he realized that, staying silent about certain issues is not going to help him. So I'm glad to see that he is speaking out more. But we need more doctors. One of my favorites is Dr. Russell Blaylock. I did a show with him a few years ago, and I started talking about genocide, and he actually agreed with me. And now he's openly talking about depopulation. So once you realize, that your profession is killing people. You have to make a decision. Am I going to speak the truth? Am I going to sell my soul for cash? What am I going to do? Because, of course, everybody's being affected.
Right, but Wakefield speaking about the gut, speaking about the intestinal problems and all these things. I mean, that is part of the reality as well. I mean, this kind of stuff is going on from these very same big pharma entities. I mean, all the stuff that they're doing is causing increases in Crohn's disease and all these other problems as well, right?
Yes, but
everything that you can think of is being caused directly or indirectly by these vaccines. And I just did an interesting show with Cynthia Janik, and she has come up with this brilliant. I don't know if you heard that show, Dr. Carley. Look at histamine and histamine intolerance and the inflammation that goes on within the body. Not just because of vaccines, but because of these processed foods that we eat. High histamine foods. Histamine is a hormone. I think, Dr. Carley, if I'm right, it will, if there's too much histamine, it starts attacking the immune system. And this is what we saw over and over again with the Gardasil girls, if you will, was a huge histamine intolerance in this population. And what we didn't put together until Cynthia did, after talking to a mother who said her son was vaccinated with Gardasil, he has all these issues, he goes off to college, and he relapses after drinking a few beers with his buddies. You know what kids do at college, right? Alcohol is high in histamine. And so he relapses. So one of the reasons that these kids are not getting well is because of the repeated histamine attacks on their body, and nobody brings food into the equation. A lot of these girls can't eat, Gardasil girls can't ingest citric acid any longer. High in histamine. The girls that are getting better are gluten-free, casein-free, eating organic vegetables, but that you make one slip up, and the body, the immune system is so damaged at that point that one slip up with having a slice of pizza is enough to throw somebody back in the hospital.
Well, I did read the article that she wrote. Frankly, I think it's a little simplistic because it's always the big picture. It's not just histamine. It's everything in the vaccines. Each poison has its own consequence. But I'm sure that, that is involved. You can be allergic to anything. One of the clients I have that got the Gardasil vaccine, she has 19 diagnoses, including hypothyroidism. I mean, this poor girl, she's only 16, and she's getting better going through my protocol, but it's been a massive, undertaking on her point and her mom's point. And it's just amazing to me how many people just go and get the shot. I mean, one of the things I always tell people is check out if any vaccine has ever been tested to see if it causes cancer. The Gardasil vaccine has not been tested to see if it has causes cancer.
That is correct.
No vaccine has.
And it may be simplistic, Dr. Carley, but it is something at hand that parents can do by understanding histamine intolerance and the histamine, the L-histidine, which is in the vaccine, the first vaccine to have L-histidine. All right, it's a precursor to histamine. And my point has always been we're vaccinating girls at the most fragile time in their lives in terms of Gardasil and the HPV vaccine, and ovulatory girls who are not having regular menstrual cycles are producing more estrogen, and estrogen also stimulates histamine release. So, I mean, but for these parents who keep going to doctors who are saying it's all in your head or we don't know and I'll refer you on and this and that and the other thing, at least it gives them something that they can understand and it gives them something that they can do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that's why I was excited about Cynthia putting this this piece together. We're lay people. So she put it together from a layperson perspective, and she used the government's own studies to support her hypothesis based on her conversations with parents.
Right. And the main thing people have to do is check things out before you get the injections, because the death and destruction, I mean, in my opinion, the HPV vaccine is one of the most dangerous vaccines they've ever concocted. So many girls are dying and being maimed by this vaccine. It's and being made infertile, you know, you name it. It's pure evil. And especially that it's being given to such young girls, you know, just like the hepatitis B vaccine, as Charles was saying, the newborns are not having, you know, promiscuous sex and shooting up with needles in the nursery. Neither are these young girls at 10, 12 years old, in almost all cases, you know, having sex to begin with. So who came up with this bright idea of injecting them with this dangerous vaccine? In my opinion, it's self-evident that this is intentional. They are harming these girls and now the boys as well. And once again, it's pure evil.
Well, we all know what HPV stands for, right?
It's the human papillomavirus.
How about help pay for Vioxx?
Oh.
That's a good one.
See, I set it up for you there.
You did. That was really good. Thank you.
No problem. No, I've heard you say that before, but
I know you had, but I didn't know if Dr. Carley had.
No problem. We have to accommodate all these things, and you know, it's sad to me though that that it seems as though there is no system in the body which is not being attacked by the vaccines. First of all, there is no essential of life which is not under attack by biochemical means in one way or another, mostly via big pharma. But of course, you know, the big agro businesses as well, all of these other things. You know, hormones are definitely a huge concern. And that used to be my biggest concern was, you know, when it came to like stuff like dairy products and, you know, meat, although I got some listeners who, you know, give me a hard time about eating meat. I still do. The thing is, you know, I was more concerned about the hormones and the antibiotics, you know, the overuse of antibiotics, and this would be a problem. But it is way, way, way more out of control than that nowadays. And they keep piling this stuff on more and more. Like it seems every couple of months they're adding more to the alleged schedule. You know, there's more stuff going into the food supply. There's more stuff going into the water. There's more stuff going into the big pharma toolbox that has to be opened up for every single child when they're born. You know, it seems like insanity to me. But meanwhile, like I said, in the mainstream now especially, there are people that want to say that those of us who question this are absolutely out of our minds. Not only that, but we're dangerous to our own children. We're dangerous to the population at large. And this is what concerns me, because now they want to talk about, you know, creating punishments for parents who don't vaccinate, creating punishments for parents who don't give, you know, the medicines, the medications, the other poisons to their kids, because the conventional wisdom is such that these kids need it because they have the ADD and they have the spectrum problems and they have the this and they have the that. If we don't, then it's a form of neglect. One of you brought up the term, I think, medical neglect, right?
Yes.
Why this is all really ramping up, and I think is going to be a huge issue during the, you know, the presidential farce in 2016. You know, this is going to be one of those big sort of issues where they're going to try and subdivide us a bit. And I'm actually a bit nervous at this point because I know I'm part of the population who A, questions all of this, and B, absolutely rejects the majority of it. You know, like, and I know you said I shouldn't use the exemption. That's the route I've chosen thus far. do you know the rest of the process that I should go through to, because I've already lost as far as, being given all this garbage when I was a child and all that. But my youngest, I want to keep him free of all this stuff. Can you explain a little more about, that the other process besides looking for the exemption?
Well, the best place to go is Parents Against Mandatory Vaccinations.com. That's run by the same person who runs the Anti-Corruption Society.com. There's a whole team of people that have come up with a solution of how to basically point out that these agencies are for-profit corporations traded on Dun and Bradstreet. They do not cover living flesh and blood human beings. And that's the route that I would go if I was you. The exemption may work until they take the exemptions away, but that's what they're working on. In terms of the meat, I just want to suggest another website for the listeners, MERIAL, Merial.ca. It's a Canadian company that makes vaccinations for food source animals. You got to check it out, people. I always tell people that like chicken wings, that's where they give the vaccines to the chickens, okay? They're giving live herpes virus to turkeys. You can't even imagine the insanity that's going on. So if you're going to eat meat, you better make sure that it's not just antibiotics that are being avoided and that they're getting non-GMO food. You want to try to find somebody who's not vaccinating their animals.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me make sure I heard you correctly. Live herpes?
Yes.
To turkeys?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can go on that website. Oh. They list all the food source animals and all the stuff they're giving them. It's insane. So you see,
dare I ask what the logical reasoning is for giving a herpes virus to a turkey?
There is no reason. It's just further, creation of disease.
I mean, they don't even have an excuse for it. Like, this is good because nothing.
No, I don't remember
how could
seeing
it be
any
good?
Excuse for it. Right.
Yeah.
It's so many levels. Okay, they're vaccinating the animals that we eat. They're vaccinating us and our children. And the hell with them if they try to say that we're all kooks. I would challenge anyone to debate this mouthpiece, Paul Offit, who actually developed the rotavirus vaccine. He's on a lot of shows, calling people like us kooks. And this man has a conflict of interest. He's making money off the rotavirus vaccine, the first edition of which was taken off the market because it was causing something called intussusception in infants, where their bowel telescopes on itself and they have to cut the bowel out. But this is the mouthpiece. He works for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Ooh. And this is the mouthpiece they always bring out to talk about the wonder of vaccines.
Yeah, somebody further back in the chat room had said that the guy that was mentioned in that clip I played that was writing the statement for Autism Speaks actually was a former big pharma researcher apparently. So it seems as though all these guys that go out there and advocate, the use of these. I'm sorry, I'm still stunned by the herpes in the turkey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still wrapping my head around that one too.
Are you okay? Normally, there's some kind of reasoning for this stuff. Like when they said they were spraying, certain viruses on top of the meat, it was to kill other bacteria. Something else. There's some ostensive positive reasoning for doing such crazy things, but I don't see what would be the justification for giving herpes virus to a turkey.
As I said, I haven't looked at the site in a while, but I don't recall them giving any reason. They just list the vaccines that they manufacture. So I encourage everybody to check it out for themselves. MERIAL.ca. See what they're doing to your food source animals. As a matter of fact, there's a local market that I go to get vegetables here in Hickory, North Carolina, where I live. And one day when I was there, there was a man selling pork products. So I asked him if his pork was vaccinated. You can't tell them you're against vaccines or they'll just lie to you. So I just asked him, he thinks that I'm pro-vaccine. That's why I'm asking the question. And I was shocked to hear him respond that, oh, yes, we have to vaccinate them on their way to the slaughter. Now, what is the reason for that? If let's pretend vaccines worked and they developed an immune response. How are they going to develop an immune response on their way to the slaughter?
Well, I was just going to say, let's just pretend for a moment that there's absolutely no question that vaccines are okay. Let's pretend. I know it's hard, but let's do that. It doesn't even, by their own understanding and by their own explanation of the science, have time to do anything other than wind up sitting there in the animal, probably uncut. You could wind up with this stuff, in the blood of the animal that winds up settling in the bottom of the packaging.
Right. Well, what I always tell people, they tell you they're immunizing you against disease. They're inoculating you with disease. That's how you have to transform the words, okay? And in this case, when this guy told me that, I asked him, I said, what kind of an immune response does the pig develop on its way to the slaughterhouse? And once again, he looked at me like a deer caught in the headlights. You see, these idiots, they just do what they're told because that's what they have to do to sell their product. So, yeah, sure, I'll vaccinate the pig on the way to the slaughterhouse, not even considering whether or not that's going to be able to accomplish anything other than inoculate the pig with disease. So, I could talk for days on this subject. This is my thing. But it's just mind-boggling how insane it has gotten and how many people just go along with the flow. They don't want to cause a problem. Just do what they're told. I've had so many parents contact me. One parent is against vaccines. The other one just says, just do it, do what you're told, blah, 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 without even checking things out. Because it's easier to do nothing until your child gets critically ill. And then you're going to suffer like you've never believed. Or they'll be dead. And that's what's going to happen if you don't check things out, people.
Or injured. Sadly, with my first wife, she is very much, appealed to authority regarding the kids. And so they were all, fully, completely vaccinated. And I wasn't entirely educated on the subject. I still don't feel as though I am, but at least I'm aware that there's dangers now, because I foolishly accepted a lot of the things told to me by allopathic practitioners, as it were, throughout time. Even went through a throat surgery that I now greatly regret. Okay, stuff like this. But the fact is that, my son, who winds up, on the spectrum, as it were, ended up with a serious allergy to a protein in milk and everything else. And he nearly died when he was an infant because he couldn't consume any of his food, any of this formula that I was feeding him, which is, I know, another issue. But the thing was, all of that damage and everything, when I try and relate to her even now, because we're completely separated, that, maybe you should question some of the chemicals that the doctors are giving to the kids. It's like, well, I don't even want to listen to you because you don't know anything. They went to school for it, so they know. Right. Literally, that's as far as her explanation goes. And it's sad to me. You don't even question it.
Well, and that's
and that's part of the process, and that's part of reaching critical mass and the turnaround. There are more and more people who are starting to question it. One, because autism is so prevalent chronic illness affects 54% of our kids. It is. I think that really, honestly, the government and the medical industries are standing on their last leg. We know we're going to have a congressional hearing in 2015. There's an army of parents on Twitter. If your folks tweet, do a search for hashtag CDC whistleblower. They have reached over 1 billion people. This is parents taking the initiative on their own. Once it was found out that the CDC whistleblower, Dr. William Thompson, who still works for the CDC, who now has whistleblower status, cracked open the door by saying, yeah, the CDC knew about this study with the link between MMR and autism and African-American boys. They just walked through that door, and they are not going to close it. They will be doing this until it is their last breath. And they are doing such a fabulous job of, I think there's some incredible amount of over 35,000 people, and that was a week or so ago, who are participating in this movement now. And these are not just the anti-vaxxers. In fact, I'm going to put it to all of you. If you are called an anti-vaxxer, I want you to turn the terminology around and say, I am vaccine educated. Because that's what the government does. They make this into a black and white issue. Barry Siegel with the Focus for Health Foundation just wrote a fabulous post on this. Why does everything have to be black and white? We see this with the abortion issue. We see this with the civil rights issue. This is not a black and white issue. This is not a yes or no or pro or not or against issue. There is a middle ground. So we are not anti-vax. We are vaccine educated, and that is the most important thing to tell people. And it turns the conversation around, and it puts you back in power of the conversation instead of just going, what do I say to that one? Right?
I totally agree with you. That's so important. And, of course, that's what we have to do. Although I have absolutely no faith that our corrupt Congress is going to do a darn thing. They're all bought off by Big Pharma. And so I think this is going to be just another dog and pony show. But once we have enough dog and pony shows, eventually the people will get it that that's all we're seeing are dog and pony shows. And, the people have to just say no. Just say no. Exemption, no exemption, whatever. I will not poison my child. Period. I will not do it. That's what you have to do. You have to protect your children and your pets. I always like to bring up the pets because they're being killed off in massive numbers as well. As a matter of fact, most people don't realize that they give the same dose of vaccine to a Chihuahua that they give to a German Shepherd or a Great Dane, whatever. That's why the small breeds are getting sick and dying in unbelievable numbers.
That's amazing, and I've heard that verified in many different places. But I think there's going to be a turnaround. I really think there is going to be a lot of people saying no. We're in the fight for our lives. This is the issue of the 21st century. The world is watching us. I had a Twitter comment from someone last week from Australia. What the hell is going on in America? The whole world is watching, and so we have to rise to this. We have to make it work this time, because if we don't make it work this time, we're never going to have the opportunity again. This is the fight of the 21st century. Get on board, start tweeting, and let people know how you feel to protect your medical freedom about vaccination.
Right. I totally agree. And not just vaccines, psychiatric drugs, as I said, is another big one that are forced on people. We should not be forced to do anything. We should, and see, that's why they did this Obamacare thing, because nothing that works is covered by insurance. And of course, that's one of the problems I have, is that people are spending so much money for their health insurance, which covers only big pharma treatments, that, they can't pay out of pocket to do things that work. And that was certainly intentional.
Yeah.
And I put something to Leslie at the top of the show, and it is one of the most confusing things to me when I'm watching this demonization over the measles. Like I said, in my generation, the MMR vaccine existed. Okay, I got it. It's not the same thing now. I understand that, but let's just assume again, we're going to pretend that the vaccines absolutely work and that it's a sound science and everything else. Wouldn't the danger here, because it's being presented in the public discourse as those of us who are not vaccinated, or those of us that refuse to vaccinate our children or whatever, we are endangering others. Logically speaking, if the science is sound, wouldn't the only danger be to those who are not vaccinated if it's absolutely, completely reliable as a way to prevent a disease?
That is the hard question.
And that is the great question.
Yeah,
right,
that everybody
exactly.
should be asking what, like you said, if vaccines work, then what is the problem with the unvaccinated children? Of course, getting a disease naturally is how your immune system learns how to work. I'm 60 years old. I got the measles. I got the chicken pox. I got all these things. I stayed home for a couple of days. I ate some ice cream back before they totally destroyed the milk. And there was no problem. And then I have lifelong natural immunity. So that is the hard question. Now, when people ask that question, what the pro-vaccine minions will say is, well, not everyone can be vaccinated. Under a year old, they can't be vaccinated. People with immune dysfunction can't be vaccinated. So that's the excuse they usually come up with. But I teach people about something called colloidal silver, which kills every bug that it's ever been tested, including HIV and Ebola. And that's what I take every day, me and my 2 dogs and 2 cats. And I never get sick. So there's other things you can do instead of getting toxic poisons injected into you by some medical tyrannical minion who gets more money. They actually get increased compensation if they have fully vaccinated client lists in their practice. So there's all kinds of reasons that they're doing this, and none of it is for your protection.
And that's done with all sorts of chemicals. I mean, everything from SSRIs to weight loss to, I think just about everything except opiate painkillers pretty much is encouraged by the drug companies. If you sell enough of their product, if you write enough prescriptions for them, there's all sorts of rewards. There are drug reps still to this day, I mean, as far as I know, going around to doctors' offices and different places, dropping off samples, buying lunch for everybody in the office, giving out little prizes. I mean, not to mention, their pens and pads and clipboards and so on and so forth with their drug companies' logos on it so that you do remember which drug you're supposed to be pushing, right? The whole thing is all about big business. And it seems as though every last one of these chemical solutions that they seem to offer us does just create yet another problem. You ever notice that, how many times have you heard the story already of somebody who's on 10 different medications? It seems as though they're all killing them. They keep giving them new things to deal with the, popping up side effects that are coming out of one thing or another. They've given you a heart pill, which now causes you stomach problems. So they've given you a stomach pill, which now causes you a kidney problem. You know what I mean? And then so many people turn around and just absolutely throw out everything that was in their medicine cabinet or lose it somehow. And after a brief period of detoxing, they seem to be doing better.
Yeah, they start feeling. I have to tell you a little anecdotal study, story, and it's short, but it's very poignant. My father used to work for a pharmaceutical packaging company. And he would be one of these salesmen that would go out and have the 2 martini lunches and travel and woo pharmaceutical companies, and they'd package their drugs. And one day he sat me down and he looked at me. He said, "Never believe everything that's being advertised." he was very disheartened by the work that he did. And that was way before any of us started having this conversation. I thought that was a great story. What do you think?
No, that's a great story. I was just reading something in the chat room about the colloidal silver, and I know I just mispronounced that. Sorry. The question was, how do you ensure particle size of silver, please?
Oh, that's a good question. Dr. Carley, are you still with us?
Yeah, sorry, I just had to let my dogs out quick. I've had people on as many as 25 medications at one time. And one thing I will say is you have to be careful, not to just stop all these medications cold turkey, especially when you're on steroids. Steroids can actually cause shutdown of the adrenal gland. Some of these drugs you have to wean off. Some can be stopped cold turkey. But, definitely, as I said earlier, you have to go online, type in the name of your drug, -side effects, see what they admit to. You would never take any of these drugs if you did that. And like I said, there's natural solutions for everything. So, that's my main message to people is, and it hurts me. It was my dream to become a medical doctor. I'm from a very poor family. Nobody made any phone calls for me. I did it all on my own. And then when I started working in the hospital, I witnessed euthanasia, research fraud, and experimentation on people. And that was when I said, I'm out of here. I will not be part of this group. And I took time off to have my son, who will be 19 in a couple weeks. He was brain damaged by his vaccines, and that's how I learned about vaccines. So, it's so important for people. And Charles had said earlier, you don't have any medical training. You have common sense. Common sense, people.
Yay
That's all
to common sense. Yes. And that's what's so important about this conversation. I mean, it's so easy to point the fingers at the other people and say, those dirty bastards, look what they've done to us. What have we done to us? What have we allowed to be done to our bodies? We've believed in the whole doctor, lawyer, Indian chief thing. And
Hang on a second.
And it's a sham.
Hang on just a second, boss.
Hey, what's going on there?
How you doing? I guess you have a question. I got another a question from the chat room, but go ahead. You wanted to add to the conversation?
Hey, this is Mr. Ochelli, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is the Desert Hawk.
Oh, hey, Desert Hawk. How you doing?
Yeah, it's been a while. I am apparently blocked from getting into the chat room due to technical difficulties, but I appreciate your guys' conversation here. Have you guys seen the movie, Criminy? It dealt with the thing there in Nevada or New Mexico, the Roswell. It's a movie called Roswell.
No, I haven't seen it.
That's a good one. It's got Martin Sheen in it, and he said something similar to what you just said. He said, look what they've done to us.
Well, you see, that's how Hollywood works. They tell us the truth in movies so that anybody that watches can say, oh, it's just a movie.
I love that. That is fabulous, and you're so right.
Yeah, that's how they work. I mean, there's so many movies that fit that category.
Right. They give you a little bit of truth in a fictional construct, so they can tell you it's a fiction, and meanwhile it's a whole lot more realistic than half of the history books that they handed you in school.
Right.
One of the quick questions from chat, just really fast before I forget about it, because I will forget. Hawk, just hang on a sec. Is they wanted to know how you can ensure that it's nano size.
That what is nano size?
The silver, the colloidal silver.
I don't like that word nano.
Ah, okay.
Nano implies that it's very, very small. You have to be careful. There are so many companies making products which are not good for you. And so one thing I teach my clients about is something called muscle testing. Your body will actually...
first time I heard nano was on Mork from Mork. He said nanu. And I don't see those guys giving us a choice or a solution to what's going on.
Yeah, muscle testing. Let me describe muscle testing. It's also called kinesiology. You can actually hold the product. Well, first of all, you have somebody test you. They press down on your dominant arm while you're holding nothing and measure your muscle strength. And then you hold something, whatever you're considering taking, close to your chest. And then you have it tested again. And that is the best way I know of to find if something's good for you or bad for you. And that's what I use when I'm testing out, a new supplement or whatever for the first time. So that's what I do. Because there's so many frauds out there, you have to really be careful.
No, absolutely. Always do your research when you're picking up one of these products. A lot of them are sort of misleading. It's not to say that there aren't a lot of great things out there that you can find, but you got to be really, really selective about it. That's for sure. So, Hawk, anything else you wanted to add in here?
No, I guess I'll jump out. I just figured I'd check in with you guys. Sounds like you're doing great. I appreciate your guys' show. I think you're putting out some good, healthful information there. And, if you guys had any, we got to get over this stuff. The scale of things is ridiculous. They're telling us that they're here to help us, and obviously they're not. That's a bad deal.
No, absolutely. And, Hawk, definitely the show after mine is wide open for phone calls. So feel free to jump in there with anything you want to talk about. So, but really appreciate you calling in, man. Thanks for listening. And it's good to hear from you. I haven't talked to you in a long time.
You bet, man. Stay well. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Keep your head up, brother. So, and this is part of the reality is that, and that's why I really loved the attitude that you took when I was discussing, the broadcast that you were going to start doing over there, at TLB Town Crier, which both of these fine ladies can be heard over there at tlbtowncrier.com. Of course, Leslie Carol Botha, and please excuse me if I screw it up because it's kind of long. Holy Hormones, Honey, the greatest story never told.
That's exactly right.
I got it.
You got it.
and Dr. Carley also does a show over there.
And let me just say, we're both on Wednesdays. Actually, Leslie's right before me at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm at 8 p.m. Eastern. My show is What's Ailing the World. Unfortunately, I'll never run out of answers to that question. So, yes, I definitely encourage people to tune in and get educated.
Yeah, and sadly, you will never run out of possibilities for your broadcasts. I like I said before you joined us on the call, because I was having a little trouble getting it together, I really felt like you needed to call it The White Coats Are Coming. But then again, I guess they're already here, and they're already doing their damage. So
Yep, they're already here.
Well, you know what? And here's the deal, people. We got to figure out a way to get along with these people, with the white coats. And so I'm, with the doctors, with the nurses, they are overwhelmed by the agenda. They are overwhelmed by sick people and sick, contagious people. Judy Mikovits is actually, let me just change that phraseology to totally around. Judy Mikovits, who authored the book, The Plague, and we haven't even begun to talk about viruses and retroviruses, but she said, we're not contagious. We're infected. We're not contagious. We are already infected. And these doctors are so busy really trying to take care of people who are just so very sick. And so, my hand's off to people who are going into the doctor's offices with research and trying to set up communication lines with their doctors. And a lot of doctors are receptive. They know what's going on. Absolutely. Doctors are leaving the profession in droves. Nurses are leaving the profession in droves, just like you did, Dr. Carley. When that light goes on, you can't go back. You can't pretend. You got someone who's sick and dying right in front of you, and you know exactly what caused it, and it was something you injected them with. And so we have to start a conversation. We have to start a conversation with our politicians, with our doctors, because then there's more numbers, and then there's more credible numbers, and that is what is so important to do. And the Autism One conference at autism1.org is a wonderful place where doctors and researchers, educators, and parents are coming together and trying to develop strategies on handling the events that are historic events that are right before us every single day. So arm yourselves, get on Twitter, #CDC whistleblower, be part of the conversation. Get on websites like focusforhealth.org, ashotofTruth.org, the sites that Dr. Carley mentioned. Print out the research. Take it to your doctor. Educate him. Talk to him.
Well, I have to comment. I have to comment. They will not listen. They will not listen.
Some are listening. Some are listening.
Well, not enough are listening. And actually, especially pediatricians are going on the attack. They're firing patients who refuse to vaccinate. Don't forget that standard of care standard of practice, they all have to follow. And they don't want to know the truth because they'll lose their license. And many of them, that will put them out of business. I agree with you. Doctors are leaving in droves, as are nurses, mostly because they're being forced to get the flu vaccine as well. They're not leaving because of what's happening to their patients. They're leaving because they know how dangerous these vaccines are, and they don't want to do it to themselves. Mm-hmm. So that's my opinion. You can try to educate them, give them information, see what happens.
That's all we can do, and then you just move on.
Right.
For the people who are really trying to help, who are really interested, and only you as a patient will know that. You make peace, have a conversation, educate, listen, and because the more people that we can bring into this conversation, the better.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And I think connecting with people in general is just a good idea anyway. The more we do that, the better chance we have of even the possibility of working together in real communication, not just vicariously. And don't just think you're in touch with people because they happen to be on your television screen either. Okay, a couple things really quick. If anybody does want to call in and ask a question or have a comment, because I do miss things that are in the chat room and I'm not able to keep my text messages up at the moment. So if you guys want to call in, 718-717-8296. Be more than happy to have any relevant question or comment to either one of these two ladies. And I'm telling you, it's a real privilege to have each of you on. Really quickly, besides the fact that you guys are both on the Liberty Beacon Town Crier network, you also have websites of your own. And I wonder, Leslie, if you could tell people where to go to see your stuff, your blog, all that.
Yeah, my blog is called holyhormones.com. I have a great article up there right now, a compilation of actually a blog that I wrote on a compilation of articles that came across my desk this week. I've been, really careful about talking to women about birth control and then talking to another population about vaccines and not mixing the two until, as I mentioned at the top of 2 hours ago, a graduate student put together a hypothesis linking synthetic hormones to vaccination. Synthetic hormones, Dr. Carley, as you and I both know, are steroids. When women are coming off synthetic hormones, they go through withdrawal, especially the Depo-Provera vaccine, birth control vaccine as it is. And that also should be done judiciously. Steroids are dangerous. Dr. Carley knows that. I know that. And it's time that you all start waking up to the fact. We call this setting the stage for autism. And what we do to our bodies and what our mothers did to their bodies, and now our grandmothers who were, and great grandmothers who were the forerunners of pill users, now has affected our bodies, and we see puberty in younger and younger children, girls 5-year-old with breasts. boys with testicles. These are severe issues, and there are so many issues to tackle. And what is the lesson here? The lesson is take back your health. Get on this organic diet kick. Talk to people like Dr. Carley. Talk to others who have the methods to detox and can offer micronutrients to replace the nutrients that all these things deplete out of your body. Anytime you step out of bed after a good night's sleep or even not a good night's sleep, you're using micronutrients. That's what fuels your body. You put gas in your car, you need micronutrients in your body, and end of story. If you're not doing that, you are disintegrating. You're going to get sicker and sicker and sicker.
You have to do your homework. That's my message to people. Stop thinking that this doctor, be it male or female, sitting there in a white coat with a stethoscope around their neck, do not assume they know anything. They know nothing about nutrition. They know nothing about the cause of disease. You have to do your own homework. And one of my frustrations has been my own family doesn't listen to me. The white coats have killed both of my parents, my two younger brothers, and now they're killing my younger sister with chemo and radiation. When she's gone, my entire family will be dead. Okay? They wouldn't listen to me. Each one watched the last one die. They went back for the same. Because their attitude to me was, well, what makes you think you know more than they do? Because I've done my homework, you idiots. That's my answer. So let me just quickly mention my websites. I have two websites. I suggest everybody start with reversing vaccine induced, INDUCED, diseases.com. That's much smaller, easier to get through. My other one is drcarley, CARLEY.com. Unfortunately, that website is under attack. Many of the links have been disabled, and I have to pay somebody to fix that. So, I have too much on my plate. That's my problem. But do your homework, people. There's nothing more important than your health. If you don't have your health, you have nothing. And once you get sick, climbing out of that deep hole is oftentimes very difficult. Much better, like Leslie said, eat properly, drink clean water. Of course, breathing the good air is a hard thing now with all these chemtrails. But do the best you can. That's all you can do is the best you can. And, protect your children especially. Because we're talking about the potential extinction of the human race. One thing I didn't mention, I'm working on 2 books now, and I'll be covering this in one of my books. Unfortunately, it's over 1,000 pages. That's how much proof I have about vaccines. But they're actually causing the corruption of our very genetic structure. Yeah. One of the references in my paper on drcarley.com, Inoculations of True Weapons of Mass Destruction, is a 1999 Scientific American article called DNA Vaccines, where they actually claim that you can repair genetic damage by injecting circular rings of viral, protein and DNA into somebody to repair their genetic defects. All you have to do is look at the diagrams, and they actually show that's how they're corrupting our DNA. Why do you think they know about the BRCA gene for breast cancer and all these other genes? Because they stuck them in there. That's how they know what to look for. Okay, they're causing this genetic damage. So we're talking about the potential extinction of the human race. That's how big this is. It is no joke.
Exactly.
I agree.
And so do I. And really quickly, I want to address a Skype message that apparently you misunderstood something I said there, sir. I am not encouraging anybody to get off of any chemical that they are taking on a daily basis without taking some very serious precautions, without being very careful about their nutrition as they do it, and without doing it incrementally. I would never tell anybody to get off of any particular substance. Whether it's a street drug or a a steroid or a painkiller. None of these things would I say anybody should just simply drop immediately, because you could do a great deal of damage by doing so. This has to be done A, incrementally, and B, very strategically. Not necessarily under the care of a doctor, but with great consideration to all of the aspects of your health. So that is not what I was saying earlier, that people should cold turkey just drop all their medicines.
I never heard you say that. You didn't say that, and so obviously in the heat of a moment, and these are emotional topics that we were covering, and it can be easy to misconstrue something. But no, and Chuck, neither Dr. Carley or I would have let you say something like that either.
No,
we would have both been jumping all over you.
Right. Neither one of you would have let me get away with that. And
no.
quite honestly, I did discuss at length on this show that I had personally gone through getting myself detoxed from being addicted to painkillers at one point. So that was something that I did. I don't suggest it or give anybody a roadmap for it. I tell you to be very, very careful with doing these things, and that I advise no one to do any of this kind of stuff, regardless of whether it is one of those type of medications or another. You don't do it just by dropping it and not taking it anymore. That's extremely dangerous. So let me just make that extremely clear. And that's all I wanted to say about that. Sorry, but I wanted to address it because I didn't want anybody to misunderstand.
Yeah, you had to. And again, neither one of us would have jumped all over you ourselves and saying, "Oh no." But you're smarter than that.
Well, regarding the painkiller thing, it's being admitted that more people are dying from these prescription pain meds than are dying from heroin, cocaine, or any of these other street drugs. The FDA, I forget the name of it, but it actually recently approved a new pain med that's much more potent than Vicodin and all these others. It's got more of the drug that you become addicted to in it. I mean, how obvious can it be that they're harming us intentionally? So, yes, you have to be very careful. You have to detox slowly, especially with certain drugs. Like I said, steroids is one of the big ones. They're giving steroids for everything, because all of these autoimmune situations are due to vaccines. So they give steroids to decrease the autoimmune reaction. And as I said, it can shut down your adrenal gland if you go off it cold turkey, et cetera, et cetera. It causes osteoporosis, cataracts. These side effects are legion.
Right, and in the short term, it can also cause some very serious psychological distress as well, because, again, with that throat surgery I was talking about earlier, what they gave me initially, because I had the sleep apnea surgery, so you know what we're talking about here, effectively they gave me these steroids to get over, you know, all the damage had been done after, you know, having part of the soft palate removed and all that. My sanity was challenged by that round of steroids, to be honest with you. You know, so there's a whole host of psychological issues that can occur from these things as well. And, of course, very, very dangerous to try and just give up cold turkey. I would never encourage anybody to give up a steroid cold turkey or any of these very addictive substances like that. I would definitely advise a very careful sort of way of dealing with it. You know, and look it up for yourselves. Educate yourselves about this. There are ways of doing it without getting yourself addicted to yet another substance, you know, sort of trading demons, as it were. You know, which, of course, was the wonderful idea that was, you know, put upon us with the methadone and the Suboxones of the world and the Subutex and things like this. So, you know, you traded substances and actually got something that, in my opinion, is even more dangerous than the drug you were on to begin with.
That's very true. Yeah, that is very true. And I have to tell you, my hats go off to anybody who is trying to work through an addiction, and whether that's a legal drug or an illegal drug, that takes a lot of courage. and a lot of determination. The thing that I have learned now, which has changed my life exponentially, and I mentioned this many shows back, is that when the brain gets the nutrients it needs, then the cravings start diminishing. And so then the cognitive behavioral motivational therapies are much more effective. But it takes a bravery, and I have the highest respect for people who are attempting to do that.
Right. I just want to mention another thing people need to check out is targeted individuals, directed energy weapons that are also being used on people. This is also becoming more and more commonplace. And, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. People don't want to believe that this is happening, but it is happening. And that's another thing that's being used against us. And Charles had mentioned methadone. That's one of my favorites. Yeah, let's get off the heroin and take methadone, which of course is just as addictive as heroin is. As a matter of fact, I had a client a few years ago that was on methadone, and he told his doctor he wanted to get off the methadone, and his doctor told him, if you don't keep taking the same dose, I won't see you anymore, which means he would have to go off cold turkey. So they obviously have an agenda to keep you on these drugs. And it's insane.
Yeah. It's very sad. Very sad.
Absolutely. And listen, we're down to just about the last 7 minutes here. And so this is usually the time when, I thank everybody for listening who's decided to tune into the Ochelli Effect for tonight. And do appreciate it, whether you're catching us further downstream or not. One other question came from the chat room for Dr. Carley, and I probably missed some other ones. I do apologize to you guys. Somebody asked why you were not on RBN anymore.
Because I was censored. I went off 6 stations over the past year and a half or so because I was censored. So there were certain guests I was told that I was not allowed to have on. And I will not be censored. So I'm very grateful to be on the Liberty Beacon Town Crier now. There's no censorship there, and that's the reason.
Okay. Well, and so with these last few minutes, though, I want to give each of you just a chance to sort of, get out your final conclusion about what we've discussed tonight. I mean, obviously, we didn't touch upon every single thing that we could have. It is absolutely endless regarding, this corruption of biology, this chemical warfare, as it were, on the human being. And I know it sounds like hyperbolic language, but I don't believe it is. And I do believe that the foot soldiers are very much, parts of the medical industrial complex, as it were. This is my attitude towards it, and it is not changed by the recent events. That's for sure. I'm a little bit worried about how far we're going to go with the demonization of individuals who are trying to simply assert their right to what I thought was a right anyway, to informed consent regarding what it is they put into their own bodies and their children's bodies. But first, Dr. Carley, your final thoughts, as it were.
Well, I encourage everybody to do their homework, A, and B, just say no. Just say no. If enough of us just said no, what would they do? Okay, they can threaten you till the cows come home. But if enough of us say no, they're powerless. So that's what I would encourage people to do. First of all, like I said, do your homework. Don't believe anything I say. Check things out for yourself. I've been researching these topics for about 2 decades now. I don't say anything I can't prove. But we're talking about, like I said earlier, the potential extinction of the human race. That's how bad this is. It's no joke. And they are depopulating the population, especially in third world countries like Africa, where they want to steal all the natural resources, et cetera, et cetera. And people of conscience who can't believe that such evil is going on better open up their eyes and face reality, because it is going on. And like I said, if enough of us just say no, the party's over for these psychopaths.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And one more question, and then I'll let Leslie kind of close things out for us. Somebody asked who you think is actually behind this whole giant complex when it comes to the medical industry.
Well, there's many individuals. Bill Gates is at the top of the list. There's actually a TED conference where he talks about using vaccines for depopulation purposes. But basically, all the big pharma players, they know what they're doing. And there's many of them. And like I said, they will never be charged with murder by medicine. And so people have to stop using their services. Do your own research. Like Leslie said, eat good micronutrients, drink clean water. Stay away from these people. They're killing you. I can't say that strong enough. That's what they're doing. Be they knowing what they're doing or not knowing what they're doing. In the end, that's the, overall effect.
Absolutely. So, Leslie, your final thoughts on this whole discussion tonight?
I think, wasn't it the Crosby, Stills, and Nash song, Teach Your Children Well? That's what I want to say to all of you. Teach your children well. And Dr. Carley is right. We are facing extinction. And before extinction comes, and that will be a blessing, because we are going to see horrific disease, epidemics, drugs, vaccinations, and pain and misery before that happens. So look at your life, look at what's out there to help you, look at alternative therapies, and teach your children well.
I agree.
And I can't argue in the least. So, again, my guests tonight, Leslie Carol Botha and Dr. Rebecca Carley. I shudder to call you doctor, but you did earn that. So, it's just because I don't want to give you the guilt by association with my own gut feelings about most people that call themselves doctor. Because you're absolutely a fine individual, an extremely educated individual who seems to care about their fellow human being, which is a whole lot more than I can say for a lot of the people that are ostensibly called doctor out there. And
let me just comment on that quickly. That's why I'm such a threat, because I did go through their training, and I turned coat on them. I'm exposing them. That's why they're afraid of me. Because I know what's going on. And like I said, I witnessed euthanasia, research, fraud, and experimentation on people. That will all come out in one of my books as soon as I can get it done. And people can learn about what's really going on in those hospitals. It's not pretty, folks.
No, definitely not. And of course, we will not be able to fight any of the tremendous issues. We will not be able to stand up and do anything about any of the things that are bothering us, about any of the injustices in the world, about any of the conditions, the wars, the politics. Any of it really will not matter if we are all sick and therefore incapacitated. So, yes, absolutely, you have to first start with keeping yourself healthy so that you can make the rest of the world healthy and take care of all the things you care about. So that is the first step, I think. So this is why this is extremely relevant, and this is why that this was, the necessary show on St. Valentine's Day, as it were. So let's give a little love to ourselves, and let's give a little love to everybody by trying to make sure that we are taking care of one another and ourselves in a whole lot better way than these industries have in the past. Don't rely on a company, a corporation, a business, a doctor, or any authority to take care of you if you're not willing to do it yourself. Thank you, and have a good night. Jaded is up next.
Thank you, Chuck.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was
but I have the files. I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, chemicals and frontal slab of choice. I don't know when that was. It doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not just Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to